And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Chentex Multimedia live streaming directly to your device all the way from Brisbane. And today, let's take a look at this auspicious day of Basant Panchami, what the weather has in store for us. And with that, we'd like to welcome to the studios Dilraj with the weather update.
Good morning, everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 28 degrees. Brisbane area is partly cloudy with medium chance of showers, most likely in the late morning and afternoon. Wind south to southeasterly 20 to 30 km per hour. Fire danger is low to moderate. Sun protection is recommended till 10 to 4 pm and UV index is predicted to reach 12, that is extreme. Till tomorrow, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for that update, Dilraj. And as we know today, when we mentioned that today is Basant Panchami. So what is Basant Panchami all about? We'll have a very quick look at what it is all about and find out what's it about. So right now, so Basant Panchami, also known as Saraswati Puja.
Saraswati Puja.
So, when we look at Saraswati Puja, what does that it entail? Okay, Saraswati Puja is the famous festival of Hindus. The festival is celebrated every year on the occasion of Basant Panchami. The worship is celebrated with great glee in Eastern Australia, northwestern Bangladesh, Nepal, and many other nations according to Hindu calendar. This festival is celebrated every year on the 5th day of Panchami of Magh month, which is today. Saraswati Puja is one of the greatest festivals of Hindus. It is mainly the festival of students, scholars, etc. Saraswati being the goddess of learning, music, literature, and writing. Saraswati Puja is organized in honor of her. In some areas of India, it is celebrated with great glee. Devi Saraswati is said to be Vidya Daini and Hansavahini. The passion of organizing Saraswati Puja becomes a communication of passion of the students. Saraswati Puja is organized with full dignity by students, scholars, and speakers, all the literature people as well. In every teaching institution, even older people also give full support to the children. Cultural and entertaining activities are organized by the children in extra time. The statue of Saraswati Devi is set on Saraswati Puja. On this day, Saraswati goddess of learning is worshipped, and it is customary to wear something yellow. On this day, children are taught to write their first word, Prathamakshari. According to Hindu custom, everyone enjoys this festival with great fun and enthusiasm. And thank you very much for that. And it is always good to find out about the festivals. As we know, normally Basant Panchami would have been celebrated in a big scale. And as we know, normally Bengali Society of Queensland, and of course we know there's a puja functions been happening at the temples. So you can go and visit the temples and offer your prayers. And on this day, many students go with their books and they leave the books there in the temples early in the morning and come back and collect them later in the day. And of course, people who are in music, they pray to Goddess Saraswati as well. People who are writers, so anything to do with writing, good writing, good writing skills, good speaking skills, and knowledge in all is what Saraswati Mata is about. So that's a day today, Basant Panchami, the 5th day of Magh month, which according to Hindu tradition is today. So, ladies and gentlemen, right now, let's move on with the show for today. And there's a lot that is happening out there within the community. And of course, we know, that there has been lots of talks about the sexual assault that's happened at the Parliament House. So let's take a look at that report and then let's get a response from our Prime Minister.
Once again, the issue of a toxic culture at Parliament House and in our political system generally is under scrutiny. It's a culture that has seen everything from female MPs being bullied or targeted by political opponents with allegations of loose morals, to female staffers claiming their careers in politics have been destroyed after affairs with their bosses have ended with no damage to the MP involved. And now an even more horrendous allegation. Until last month, Brittany Higgins was a young staffer in the Morrison government, joining then Defence Industry Minister Senator Linda Reynolds just weeks before the 2019 election. Higgins has now alleged to news.com.au Samantha Maiden that just weeks after starting work for the minister, she was raped on the couch in the minister's Parliament House office by a fellow staffer after an alcohol-fuelled social occasion with colleagues.
What did you say to him?
I told him to stop.
Did he?
No.
Higgins reported the matter to police at the time, but she decided then not to make a formal complaint, meaning the matter has yet to be pursued by the police. There is considerable evidence of Higgins and the man alleged to have assaulted her arriving at Parliament House and going to the minister's office. ACT Police told 7:30 they have spoken to the Department of Parliamentary Services, who have secured the CCTV footage. The police said Parliament would share the footage at our request if Miss Higgins decides to proceed with a formal investigation. The tapes have been viewed by the National Office of the AFP, but only in relation to the security breach, not the alleged assault. Higgins was allegedly found by security staff still on the couch in the minister's office in a state of undress. They had responded to the fact the man involved had been seen on CCTV leaving the office, but without the young woman in the cocktail dress that he'd signed into the building.
Reports today are deeply distressing. This matter is under consideration by police. At all times, Mr Speaker, guidance was sought from Ms Higgins as to how she wished to proceed and to support and respect her decisions. This offer of support and assistance continues.
The story itself is shocking enough. It has left a young woman traumatised. But the question is how the government and the political system deals with such a disturbing episode. The reason Brittany Higgins says she did not proceed with the complaint was because she felt it would end her career. And more disturbingly, she says she was made to feel that this was what would happen.
That was the really clarifying moment for me, where I fully sort of internalised that this is a political issue. My job is on the line for this. I don't really have a choice.
It is a reasonable question to ask whether or not this woman understood that her job would be secure regardless of her decision.
My first and only concern was then and remains her welfare, including her right to understand all of her options and for those to be presented to her, which they were. She did continue after this incident in my employ and then moved to Senator Cash's office for the preceding 2 years.
The issue is unlikely to go away this time around. Brittany Higgins, who is now out of a job after resigning last month, has told 7:30 that, now confident that her complaint cannot be covered up, she intends to now make formal complaints to both the Department of Finance and the police about the assault.
It is very appalling to see that kind of action happening right here in our Parliament House of all the places. It's bad enough in any place. It just should not ever happen. But it is happening there in Parliament House as well raises a lot of questions. So, as I mentioned before, let's take a look at what the response has been from our Prime Minister on that report, what sort the comments made by the Prime Minister in that report was way back then, but this is as of yesterday.
I have listened to Brittany. Jenny and I spoke last night, and she said to me, "You have to think about this as a father. first. What would you want to happen if it were our girls? Jenny has a way of clarifying things, always has. And so as I've reflected on that overnight and listened to Brittany and what she had to say, there are a couple of things here we need to address. The first of those is, it shatters me that still in this day and age, that a young woman can find herself in the vulnerable situation that she was in. Not her doing. And we have to do more, whether it's in this workplace or any other workplace in the country, to ensure that people can work safely in their place and be at their best and do what they went into that job to do. Brittany talked about being her dream job. We are all privileged, whether it's members of Parliament, the people who work in our offices, indeed those who work in the gallery and do what we get to do in this place. It is a privilege, and we should be able to go about that important work safely. There should not be an environment where a young woman can find herself in such a vulnerable situation. That is not okay. The second, and I'll address the actions after I've made these comments. The second is, and I must say, despite what were the genuine good intentions of all those who did try to provide support to Brittany, that clearly, by what she said last night, at the end of the day, she did not feel that way. And that is not okay. Then there is the issue of the matter of the investigation and the police matter that needs to be attended to. And that has always been the view of those who've had knowledge of these matters, that that matter should proceed to that level, and it should. And of course the police would get every cooperation, and should get every cooperation. But there are issues that Brittany raised about why that may not have been progressed. Of course we want to respect the agency, particularly of women in these situations, to make their own choices about how they wish to proceed, but their all options must be there for them, and they must feel they're there for them. That is incredibly important.
As the Prime Minister said, that their decision is to be respected as well. But above all decision is the law. So the law of the land must pass, and it must be happen. So it is very, very important to see that that the laws are being upheld, regardless of anyone's intention or or wishes. So people could wish for whatever, but the rules and the law of the land is above any person. Well, right now, let's look at the other story about Google, who's making all kinds of threats and going to pull out, and of course all the row about the news and the rights to the news, who can say what and what can't be said, what can't be done. So here's the report, the threat by Google.
Now you can turn your body a little bit more towards the camera.
Al Sali has spent years building up his photography business and making sure it gets noticed online. Just 10% of his clients come from word-of-mouth referrals.
That's really good.
The rest find him through a Google search. Mr. Sali says his company would lose 90% of its revenue if the tech giant followed through on its threat to pull out of Australia.
It would definitely kill the business because the ongoing costs are going to be there, but the income stream would stop.
He's pleased that Google's now striking deals with media companies.
Google as a corporation, they're going to benefit if they stay, and we would benefit from it.
Seven West Media has signed an agreement with Google for its news content. It comes as federal parliament prepares to debate laws to make Google and Facebook compensate news publishers.
I think we're very close to some very significant commercial deals, and in doing so that will transform the domestic media landscape.
Google dominates Australia's online advertising market. It has more than 40% share of the $9.7 billion industry. Facebook has just 7.4%. Cafes and restaurants, hairdressers and beauty salons and the tourism sector are some of the businesses most reliant on Google.
The loss of Google search could cause issues such as supply disruption for small businesses trying to connect with other small businesses, and industries such as accommodation are also likely to feel the pinch.
Other search engines have offered to take Google's place, but IBIS World industry analyst Liam Harrison says it would have taken years to become such a formidable player.
3 to 5 years is sufficient time for search engines such as Microsoft Bing, Yahoo Search, DuckDuckGo and other search engines to step in and fill that void.
Some business owners like Rebecca Keogh have spent tens of thousands of dollars to optimise their marketing with Google. She runs PaintPlot, an e-commerce store that sells paint kits for adults.
On any given day, over half of our traffic that comes to our website and people who purchase our kits are coming through Google.
Miss Keogh says while another search engine could replace Google, it would take time to reinvest with them what she has with the online giant.
It would be a really scary day if someone said, you can't use Google anymore next week for your business.
Google says its economic contribution to small businesses is worth about $39 billion a year. Think tank, the Australia Institute, says that's somewhat overstated. Nevertheless, politically, there's pressure to come to an agreement on the media bargaining code that would prevent the tech giant from leaving Australia. Google says it will keep working with policymakers through the parliamentary process to achieve a code that works for publishers, digital platforms and Australian businesses. Ms Keogh is relying on politicians to end the uncertainty for her business.
I just really hope that both Google and the Australian government can come to a fair compromise so that everyone's happy and small businesses like ours get to continue.
But it could take time to paint a picture that pleases all sides.
Now that, these days people are so reliant on Google Guru and anything like that. Even you ask a little kid, they say, oh, just Google it. You'll find the information that you are, after. But, many times there's so much of the reliance on Google and, probably in today's day and age it will be hard to, understand or think of a world where you will not have Google or a similar search engine. Well, right now let's go to Victoria where the hotel lockdown and how effective was that and what's been happening. And later on we might be joining in with Premier Daniel Andrews as soon as he goes live.
It's day 3 of Victoria's latest lockdown, the snap decision no one wanted to see. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews argued he had no choice after the highly contagious UK variant of the virus emerged and grew into a cluster at Melbourne's Holiday Inn quarantine hotel.
This is not the 2020 virus. This is a very different virus.
There were gaps in the system, and a lot of the gaps in the system were because there was a failure to acknowledge COVID-19 as an airborne virus, and that's one of the major ways of transmission.
Epidemiologist Nancy Baxter believes more basic issues were responsible for the outbreak.
It's a situation, unfortunately, where many unrelated things have gone wrong. And that creates a perfect storm for there to be, basically the hotel was virtually a super spreader event. First you had the nebulizer. So controversial, but according to the patient, he says that he told them that he had a nebulizer and was allowed to use it. So there's the first problem. The second problem, the workers did not have the appropriate protective gear, the N95 mask.
The Australian Medical Association believes the Holiday Inn outbreak has revealed gaps in Victoria's quarantine system and says the state should not continue hotel quarantine until they've been addressed.
Quarantine is a high-risk healthcare system and it needs to be treated as such. We've got to improve things in our system before we're ready to handle that stress on the Victorian quarantine and health system of the risk that quarantine poses.
In a statement, Victoria's COVID agency said that while there's no national standard regarding ventilation for hotels, it took the additional precaution of having health and engineering experts inspect ventilation systems. It also said there's no shared airflow between resident rooms and common areas in the state's quarantine hotels. Heading into the lockdown, the state's contact tracing system rushed to track down thousands of potential contacts.
It is moving at a velocity that has not been seen anywhere in our country over the course of these last 12 months. By the time we find that case as positive, they've already infected their close contacts.
Today, as Victoria recorded another positive case, taking the Holiday Inn cluster to 17, Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton responded to criticism that the state's contact tracing was too slow.
Contact tracing metrics are absolutely terrific at the moment in Victoria. So from the time of notification to the time of interview, 2 hours. 24 hours is the national standard. From the time of notification to the isolation of close contacts or the identification of primary close contacts, the national standard is 48 hours. We're sitting around 17 to 19 hours.
Victoria's Premier believes the nation needs to consider a reduction in the number of Australians allowed to return home from overseas COVID hotspots.
I think there needs to be a cold, hard discussion, and I'm happy to lead it if I have to, about whether, with this UK strain, and we haven't even got on to South Africa yet, because it's just as bad, should we be having the total number of people coming home, or should it be a much smaller program that's based on compassionate grounds?
Alex Redmond has just returned from Scotland and is quarantining at a hotel in Melbourne. He was granted an exemption to see his mother, who died of cancer.
I was desperate to go home on compassionate grounds, and had I been denied that, I would have felt very, very aggrieved.
Alex estimates his flight home and hotel quarantine will cost him almost $20,000. He argues it would be hard to justify blocking people like him from returning while admitting international travellers for events like the Australian Open.
I think there needs to be a real consideration about what would constitute essential travel. I think there seems to be a two-tier system in play in terms of celebrities and the wealthy versus everyday Australians, when for the sake of revenue raising, which is what the Australian Open's about, it threw the doors open to, 1,200 people.
Businesses across the state are also counting the cost of the latest lockdown. Melbourne restaurant manager Ben Logan expected to host nearly 400 diners on Valentine's Day. Instead, he walked into an empty restaurant.
This weekend was supposed to be the biggest weekend we've had in 12 months. It was just, it was soul destroying. We will see tens of thousands of dollars in wasted stock.
Epidemiologist Nancy Baxter.
Many businesses, lost so much money, and right now we might go to that press conference that's about to begin in Victoria.
There have been 2 new locally acquired cases notified to the department in the last 24 hours. Both are household primary contacts, close contacts of previously confirmed cases linked to the Holiday Inn. There are also 2 new cases in hotel quarantine. That is, those who have 2 new return traveller cases tucked away in hotel quarantine. 23,950 test results received over the last 24 hours. That's a really strong number, and again we thank everyone who went and got tested. And again, confirm for every Victorian, it is literally the most important thing you can do. If you've got any symptoms at all, please go and get tested, and please do that as fast as you possibly can. In terms of those 2 new cases, they are linked, the community ones, they are linked to the Holiday Inn and that private dining event at 426 Sydney Road, Coburg. They've been isolating, they've been at home, they've done the right thing. They're not unexpected positives, although I will make it clear they did test negative some days ago. So they've been isolating, and as a result there's no further exposure sites, there's no further risk, if you like, beyond them as close contacts. We wish them well, of course, in dealing with the virus, but they are family members of known cases, and again to confirm, they have been isolating at home as we had asked them to do. There'll be further interviews just to double and triple confirm all of those things, but that's the advice that we have. We are retesting all the attendees of that private dining event, and we will update you in terms of results of those tests as they come to hand. As I said, the 2 new cases today did return negative tests several days ago, so it's just again proof positive that you do need to take that time. You do need to recognise that the virus, whilst it's fast to infect and is moving rapidly, it sometimes takes a while before people will develop symptoms and return a positive swab. Beyond that, and I don't want to be celebrating the fact that we have additional cases. You'd always prefer no new cases, but it is fair to say that with just 2 contained additional community cases today, this strategy is working. We are well placed to be able to make changes tomorrow night. As I said yesterday, I'm not in a position to definitively commit to that because these next 24 hours will of course be crucial. However, with a relatively small number of new cases, the excellent work that our contact tracing teams have done, the work of lab technicians and so many other people, we are very well placed. But we won't know and we won't be able to make a final call on that until sometime tomorrow, and as we've done on numerous occasions. We will wait as long as we can, still trying to give people as much notice as possible, but we'll wait as long as we can in order to have as much data as possible to make that important judgment. Beyond that, before I throw to Jerome just to speak to a bit more details around testing and things of that nature, I do want to make very clear that a senior group of officials endorsed by Cabinet, we are actively pursuing and examining the construction of a purpose-built quarantine centre, a centre that would serve to replace in at least significant measure, maybe not entirely, but in significant part, the work of inner-city hotels. This will be based in large part on the Howard Springs model, so people will be in the same location but they would not be sharing the same spaces, so they're not under the same roof line. It would be a cabin-style, village-style environment where there would be fresh air, where there would be not zero risk but lower risk. That work is ongoing, and as a feature of that work there'll be a delegation of senior officials travel to the Northern Territory as soon as is practicable to go and see firsthand how the Howard Springs facility is set up. In talking with some interstate colleagues overnight, I think that there is a compelling argument for this, not just in Melbourne, not just in the Northern Territory. I know the Queensland Government are working in partnership with the Commonwealth around a facility of similar structure. The 2 obvious candidates, Avalon Airport, you've got space and you've got an international terminal, and of course Melbourne Airport as well. We will pursue both of those, do that work. It's well and truly underway, and we will report progress as that happens. But I think we do have to have a proper conversation at a national cabinet level about what we can do, what further can we do to reduce the risk, particularly in light of this UK strain and all that we know about that. So when we have more to say about that work, then obviously we'll make announcements, but that's our intention. It's more than just scoping it. We are going to get on and build a facility. It's just a matter of exactly how big it is and the more precise details of where, but Avalon and Melbourne airports are standout candidates, and I'm very grateful to them for the partnership and the work that they've already done with us. We'll update as and when we need to. I now might throw to Jerome just to give you a few more figures around the work that's been going on overnight, and then we're happy to take any and all questions you have.
Thank you, Premier, and good morning. Yesterday...
So, ladies and gentlemen, that live update just straight from the Victoria as it happened. And of course, when you look at all the comments that coming in, people are not happy, especially the businesses are losing out a lot. And they said that even though it is all with good intentions about everyone's health, but of course that it was going too far. Let's see what happens out of there. Right now, the update from our Premier for today. As we know, our Premier was out west this morning looking at the facilities that have been opened there. Yeah, ready to go.
All right, good morning, everybody. Just wait till everyone's ready. Everyone's fine? All right, thanks. All right, well, good morning, Queensland, and it's wonderful to be here today in Greenbank. And of course, I'll be talking a bit more about a brand new school we're building here. But first of all, I'll just give the COVID update. So, in more good news, I can report 0 new cases overnight. So once again, well done, Queensland. And in another really good sign that Queenslanders are going and getting tested, there were 7,451 samples done in the last 24 hours. So remember, if you do have any symptoms, please go and get tested immediately. There are 7 active cases at the moment, and of course we are keeping up to date with what's happening with the vaccine. And we have sent a senior Queensland official to be embedded down in the coordination unit, the federal coordination unit, which is great, and I welcome the fact that we were allowed to do that. And of course we're getting updates now from the federal government, and I'll be having a further briefing this afternoon with Dr. Young and the Health Minister and the head of the Department of Health to talk more about the rollout of that vaccine, remembering we are starting off very small, and we are going to be getting an update about how that will be rolled out. And of course, as I said yesterday, the first place for that to be undertaken will be in the Gold Coast. Well, today, very pleased to be joined with the Education Minister and the 2 local members, Linus and Cherise. And this is what a Labor government loves doing. We love building schools. And today, the sod turning on this brand new school at Greenbank to service the North Maclean area. And next year, we are going to see students walk through that front door. So a lot of work's going to happen between now and then. But I know that FKG can get the job done. They have been building schools for us across Queensland. But what we do know is that we have these fast-growing corridors across southeast Queensland. And whether it's the areas here around Logan, whether it's Coomera or the Sunshine Coast, people are moving to these areas, and you can't blame them because the government is putting in the infrastructure that is needed. There is good quality housing and of course amenities close by. So I really commend the growth that's happening in these corridors. It's being well planned, and if you're looking to move, you should come down here and have a look. I've been quite impressed today. So there's going to be 200 jobs on this project, and once again that's going to mean local jobs for tradies. And it was great to meet Cameron, our apprentice plumber. 2 years to go. 2 years to go, finishing, and that's what we want to see. More young people getting the opportunity to get into jobs. So we will have 700 students in stage 1, and eventually will accommodate 1,400 students. So this area is growing, brand new school, and I know that the local members are of course incredibly happy with this. $73 million investment. The Education Minister has a great pipeline of investment, and it's not just the new schools that we're building, but it's also the upgrades to the school halls that we're seeing right across the state, which are being used not just for performing arts, but sport, assemblies, and also the community can use them as well. So they actually serve many purposes. And of course, this announcement is part of our record $1.9 billion in infrastructure spend in 2020 to 2021. So look, I'll hand over to the Education Minister and then the local members to say a few words, and then we're happy to take a few questions. Thanks, Grace.
This is a great site in a very fast-growing area, and can I welcome the Premier
Minister
and of
Grace,
course local members Linus and Cherise. It's
And
terrific
Cherise
to be
Muller
here, a
in the
$73 million
background.
investment. We've got 3 schools that will be opening in 2022. We've got the special school at Coomera, we have another primary school at Caloundra South, and of course this great school here in the Greenbank area. That's a $200 million investment, about 600 local jobs, and FKG, which has become very very experienced in delivering these schools, is once again the builder, and they're delivering fantastic world-class facilities for us here. So welcome to the FKG, and in particular to the apprentice plumber, Cameron McDonald, who has been working on some of our schools and getting his skills, which I'm sure he'll use for the rest of his career. As I said, there's $200 million worth of works. It's a proud day today to be turning the sod, but it's even going to be a prouder day, like we did with the 5 schools we opened this year, to once again open these schools, see the students walk through the gates, and hopefully we'll be welcoming up to 700 students in stage 1. We just asked how many houses will be in this development from Mirvac, and they're saying about 3,500 houses, and they're up to about 400 plus at the moment, so there's a lot of growth in this area, and I'm sure this school will grow with that growth as well. So it's going to be good to see the various stages, but a magnificent site for a magnificent school that we will be opening in 2022. Great to be here.
Well, good morning, Cherise Mullen, State Member for Jordan, and I really want to thank the Premier and the Education Minister for being here today. This is the first school to be built in Greenbank in 128 years, and it really reflects, I think, the emerging nature of Greenbank as a place where families want to come and build their first home and obviously raise their family. I'm very fortunate in that I represent Greenbank State School further up the road, a terrific school, but it's one that is growing very, very quickly. So the investment that we're making here for this brand new school is absolutely wonderful. It's a project that Linus Power and I have championed for quite a while, and we are just so grateful to the Premier and to the Education Minister for supporting this new school, and we're so excited about it opening first term next year. Thank you.
I'm Linus Power, I'm a local state member of Parliament, and I represent this growing area of Logan, and this is a great day for me because I really feel like I'm there to represent and be on the side of those families that are moving out to a growing and expanding area, and we want to see the services that those families need. And I understand that, I really know that the Premier and the Minister Grace, the Education Minister, absolutely understand these growing communities and are committed to delivering these services. That's why I've been out now 3 times with new schools with the Premier and the Education Minister, because we really get how these communities need these services. I also want to recognise the workers in this, people like Cam. They're building a career, they're learning skills.
And of course, we know that that's wonderful work, and good to see Linus Power there, who was last seen at Vishnu Maya Mandir at the Pratham Bhog, and he got the blessings there from Guruji as well. So let's look at the concluding remarks coming out of that press conference in Victoria.
Finally, it is going to be a bit warmer over the next few days. I'd ask everybody who is coming to our testing sites, please prepare, make sure you bring a bottle of water, make sure you bring some entertainment along if you are waiting in a queue for 1 or 2 hours. And we will, of course, be watching the weather very closely to make sure our teams continue to operate effectively and safely. And then finally, my thanks to the entire community. We've had really some fantastic feedback from people over the last few days. We've had a number of community forums relating to the exposure sites, and we're hugely encouraged by the way that people have come out and responded to our messaging. We are now seeing the kind of scenario we wanted to see, with high testing numbers and a very good understanding of how our remaining exposure sites are developing. Our team has a lot more work to do over the next 24, 36 hours. We will continue to do that, and we'll advise you again tomorrow as to how we run. With that, I'll hand back to the Premier for questions.
And that report once again coming live from Victoria, and as we know, it is challenging times, and of course there are mixed feelings. People who are losing lots of of businesses, but of course then you have to tie up with the health benefits. So talking about health benefits, as we know that World Health Organization have approved some of the vaccines, given the green light, including the one from India. Let's take a look at that report.
Today, WHO gave emergency use listing to 2 versions of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, giving the green light for these vaccines to be rolled out globally through COVAX. One of the vaccines is produced by SK Bio in the Republic of Korea, and the other is produced by the Serum Institute of India. In addition to the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, these are now the 2nd and 3rd vaccines to receive emergency use listing. We now have all the pieces in place for the rapid distribution of vaccines, but we still need to scale up production.
And of course, the production needs to be scaled up, as he mentioned. And of course, it is so good to see that India is on the top in that field as well, which is good to see. Otherwise, all the bad news seems to be just taking up the screen time. So, if you look at the big, there's a lot of good things that have been happening in the background as well, but people don't take a notice of that as well. We're looking at the lockdown now that we've just had the Premier Daniel Andrews and the Health Minister. Let's hear from the Mayor of Melbourne what she has to say herself.
We have to stay focused and unified to ensure that this 5-day lockdown doesn't go any longer. The uncertainty for small business in particular is something that is so difficult for them to manage. It's creating a lot of economic and otherwise well-being damage to our small business owners and their teams, and we need to be able to recover and get open for business as soon as possible.
Worst case scenario, Sally, what would be the economic consequences if, and it's only an if, that 5-day lockdown was indeed extended?
Well, Michael, at this stage it's really difficult to quantify. Of course, the weekend just gone would have been one of the biggest trading periods for our businesses here in the CBD, with the tennis, with Lunar New Year celebrations, with Valentine's Day. That mix of attractions and reasons to come in and celebrate was going to be a major push along for our local businesses, particularly as we head into the end of a quarter when rents become due again and other obligations need to be met. So quantifying is something that we'll have to do as we look forward, really, Michael, because we're calling for all levels of government to really outline a comprehensive support package that recognises the economic damage done from prioritising the health response.
Okay, and on that front.
Hi everyone, this is Tanvi Goyal, PR of GoPure Queensland.
And I'm Umesh Chandra.
GoPure Queensland invites you to India Day Fair fundraising gala dinner.
Get ready for a fun-filled evening of mesmerizing music with delicious food.
Raffles, auctions and some special surprises.
And you can dress in your Indian attire or come with your formal attire.
And tickets are limited, so please book immediately to prevent any disappointment.
And you can book via Eventbrite, and the link is www.eventbrite.com.au/India Day Fair fundraising.
Thank you to all our sponsors. Our platinum sponsors are Springfield City Group and New Style Developments.
And our gold sponsors are Dream Style Decorators and Bipel.
And silver sponsors are Rise, Sleep Health and Professionals and Gora Travel.
And very special thanks to Brisbane City Council, MP Peter Russo, ECCQ and MP Miss Leanne Leonard.
And also our exclusive media partners, Brisbane Indian Times and Australian Indian Radio.
And for a fun-filled night, raising much-needed funds for GoPure's India Day Fair. See you all there.
Thank you.
Most important thing to acknowledge is that if you give people notice, any notice whatsoever, and you have different rules in different parts of the state, it just stands to reason, and this is not an opinion, we saw this happen on a number of occasions during 2020. I'm not having a go at people for doing this, but people will go to second residences, they will go to family and friends, and they'll in regional Victoria, and they will potentially take the virus with them. So that would be a situation, and I went to this a couple of days ago, so Melbourne settles, we're able to lift these rules, and then a week later, or maybe even further than that, we start to see wastewater testing results showing that there is virus in regional Victoria. We don't want that. We just don't want that.
Just on the new quarantine facility.
Yes.
What side of Melbourne are you putting? What part?
It's a bit too early for us to say here is a plot of land. There's obviously space there. There's not as much space as there is at Avalon. There are obviously many hundreds indeed. I think it's the best part of 6,500 acres, so it's a pretty big site. Not all of it could be used, but there are probably more options there. The other thing too is that we have different groups. So you've got return travellers, you've got flight crew. Part of our discussions with Melbourne Airport for a while now have been about a specific facility for flight crew being built there. So again, it was important to be clear with people that this work is going on. We think this is, again, not zero risk, but it will get the risk level down. And when we have, because a lot of that work is going on, when we have updates to provide to people, we will.
You said yesterday that you're looking at Avalon as a facility for charter planes. Are you today now saying that could be a facility for general quarantine?
It certainly could be. As I'm briefed, it's a international airport that's got all the relevant tickets and approvals from the Commonwealth Government. The point I'm making though is, and I think I'll just make the point for you. Obviously, if you charter a plane, you have much greater control over where that plane lands. If it's a commercial private business, then it may be harder to get them to land at Avalon when they are much happier to be landing at Melbourne Airport. Those matters have to be worked through, and that's not just a matter for us. The federal government would need to be involved in that as well. But certainly, as I understand it, and I think the Tasmanian example would bear this out, where there have been some charters fly in there when other international flights don't. There is more flexibility when it comes to charter flights. But some of that detail and whether we split the task between two sites, that's still yet to be worked through.
Well, we'll leave that there. As we know, we've got the gist of the news of what's happening there in Victoria and how they would be progressing with that. Well, right now, moving on the last news section for today, we'd like to also look at what's happening in the banking sector. And surprise, surprise, Bendigo Bank beats the Big Four. Here's that news.
Marnie Baker, congratulations on a good result. The big uncertainty for you ahead is that how the economy will perform post-government support. Now, considering you're coming to us from Victoria and yet another lockdown that we don't know when will end, is it too soon for JobKeeper and JobSeeker, etc., to be pulled from the economy, or is the economy and households in good enough shape?
It is probably too soon to really get a look through to where we'll be sitting later in the year, and there's a lot to sort of transpire. Like you said, the government stimulus, and I'm sure the government will be thinking about that and what they do, depending upon the circumstances as we get closer to the end of March.
The government has indicated that it will provide some extra help for some post-JobKeeper. In your opinion, which industry or businesses need that help?
Yeah, well, we are sort of running a little bit of a two-speed economy, as you know. The accommodation and food services industry, of course, has been impacted. Arts and rec services have been impacted as well. Construction to some extent as well. So, I'd be supporting any position that the government takes around ensuring that those businesses and those that are attached to those businesses, do have the continued support that's required, because they probably have felt this period of time a lot deeper than other industries.
On the dividend, you could have been a little bit more generous, couldn't you? I mean, the payout is below your 60 to 80% target range. So is there a possibility that you could do some capital management later this year, return more to shareholders?
Look, we've got a really clear strategy that's really paying dividends in a sense of the growth that we're seeing, and well and truly above system growth in lending. So the capital at this point in time we expect will be needed there, and that's what the projections show will be needed for the growth that we're going to continue to see in lending.
Last time we spoke was around your results in August, and then you said that if the RBA was to cut again, you would prefer to pass it on to savers in higher deposit rates rather than cut lending rates. Since then, the RBA cut by 15 basis points, but you cut lending rates by between 15 and 25 basis points. I couldn't see that you lifted any deposit rates. Why not?
Yeah, well, the deposit rates, as you know, we've got a number of different products, and some of those we did actually reduce, and others we actually kept at the same levels for all the reasons that I spoke to you about last half.
Well, do you think you stuck to your word, or were you given a choice, given that you want to compete with the big banks? Cutting lending rates is what you have to do.
Look, we balance all of our stakeholders when we're making any decisions. To some extent we are a price follower, of course. By the virtue of scale of the major banks, they really do set the prices in the market. But within that, we do try our best to actually get the balance right between all of our stakeholders.
How comfortable are you with the essentially housing boom that we're seeing at the moment, and the fact that we're expected to see almost double-digit growth in house prices over the next 2 years?
Yeah, look,
with the housing boom, we'll talk about that tomorrow with Usha Chandra from GlobeNet Realty.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I need to say goodbye from this segment until tomorrow. And it's been wonderful having your company. It's always so good to see you. Now, we'll keep an eye on those lockdowns and the updates that do come our way. But enjoy the rest of the day, whatever's left of it. But most importantly, remain safe. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from